Last night, Temba walked into a bar looking sad and he ordered a beer. The bartender asked him, "What's wrong, brother? Why are you so down today?" "My wife and I got into a fight," Temba said. "And she said I shouldn't ever talk to her for a month." And the bartender said, "So what's wrong with it?" "Well," said Temba, "the month ends tonight." Good evening and welcome to Wisdom Wednesday on Talk with Rams Live. Thank you for choosing us. This remains the most powerful 30 minutes of digital content, this side of the equator at least. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, but you can comment on Twitter. Tonight, we go international again, thanks to our partnership with the Southern African Innovation Summit. Our guest will also be a speaker at the summit that starts next Tuesday, and tonight she shares insights and challenges facing women in business. Before I introduce her though, let me remind you to register for the SA Innovation Summit, which is starting Tuesday, 30th September. Use the code RAMS10 to get a 10% discount for registration. Now, besides it being a cheap way to get in, let me tell you why it's important to be part of this summit. You stand to benefit a lot in terms of insights into business, funding, partnerships, and growth. But you also get a chance to interact with some of the top international brains one-on-one. It is an advantage you don't want to lose. And you get a 10% discount because you are a member of the Talk with Rams Live family. Nambula Kachumi is Executive Director of the Women's Entrepreneurial Access Center, Zambia, a US government-supported initiative launched in 2015. Nambula is a private enterprise development professional with over 12 years experience in entrepreneurship, ecosystem support, and inclusive development. She's passionate and eager to see African women entrepreneurs succeed and create wealth in the mainstream economies. She joins us from Lusaka, Zambia. Now, remember to send comments and questions on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All platforms are Talk with Rams, and send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 067-271-8239. Good evening, Nambula, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Well, good evening, Rams, and thank you so much for having me. Greetings from Lusaka. This is such a great platform to be on.
Thank you so much for being here. I have only one regret that we won't be with you in person next week, but we will be in the same room virtually.
Absolutely, that's still exciting.
Indeed. So tell us about, how do you pronounce it as an acronym? Is it WEAC or WEAC?
Okay, so it's pronounced as WEAC,
okay.
The Women's Entrepreneurial Access Center, and we are formerly We Create.
Yes.
Yeah. So
what do you do?
Absolutely. The Women's Entrepreneurship Access Center is an organization that has been established to support female entrepreneurship at various levels of business building. So we work in partnership with the US Embassy in Zambia, who is also a key founding partner of the key areas that we focus on is to support, or rather to address gender barriers to entrepreneurship. So we work with women entrepreneurs in various sectors, but we also focus on those key sectors where female entrepreneurial activity is quite low, and sectors where women find it very difficult to venture successfully. So we are working across sectors such as the energy and power sector, agriculture, water and sanitation, manufacturing, mining, But also what is very critical through that process is supporting entrepreneurs to develop ideas, helping them to develop at least the minimum viable products that will take them to market as quickly as possible, while addressing some of the systemic barriers that may exist in some of these key sectors. So we are basically established because of the need to support female entrepreneurship, especially taking them to the growth stage. As you know, Zambia, like many other countries in Africa, is at a critical stage of entrepreneurship ecosystem growth. And so focusing on a very key constituency such as women is very important to support specific needs through tailored programs that support their business growth.
I know this may sound like a rhetorical question, but I need to ask it. Why is it important to have organizations like WEAC and to have programs that support women in entrepreneurship?
Right. So I think, first of all, I'd like to mention that I think there's a lot of opportunity around where innovation ecosystems are heading in terms of female participation. I think in the last few years, we've seen a lot of interest and participation, new ventures, new businesses, emerging markets where female entrepreneurs have taken keen interest, not only to operate in those sectors in the margins, which has been quite the case in the past, but they're now getting into the mainstream of the economy. So with that transformation comes with a lot of challenges and a lot of gaps, as well as overlaps, especially when you look at how the enterprise support organizations are contributing to enabling an environment that will support female participation in key sectors. So I think it's very important, first of all, to realize that even as we are providing this kind of support, from early stage up until growth, we look at some of the key aspects that women face that are significant to specific sectors. And so it's important to have a very integrated approach, a systemic approach to seeing how there could be more momentum, to an effort towards ensuring that there is intentional steps that will enable, women to accelerate not only their participation, but to become leaders within these key sectors. And that is why it is important for organizations like WEAC to really focus on how we could support this transformation and meaningfully create opportunities for women to get into the mainstream of the economies.
It's been 5 years now. What have been some of your successes at WEAC?
Great. Well, I think in the last 5 years, we have also witnessed a lot of transformation in many areas of our work. And what is quite notable, first of all, is seeing how the entrepreneurial ecosystem has come alive, because we've also been able to push key gender-specific aspects that is leading towards opening up entrepreneurship support for women. And so what we have seen change also is the approach and also the kind of support that has been triggered, through pushing policy and programs, designing specifically for women. And we have not only seen change, within the private sector, but also in the public sector, where we can significantly see, effort towards creating better policy, better regulation, creating minimum standards of addressing gender barriers to entrepreneurship. And so because of this, we've also seen women take more interest and put more effort in venturing into business, not only at the level of startup, but at the level where they're able to grow to an extent where they're now looking into venturing not only into domestic markets, but they're looking to internationalize and to also look into how they could grab some of the opportunities that exist around the continent. I think that is a great progress, and we also see a situation where sectors that are facing barriers, especially for women, to venture, are beginning to open up. We are seeing sectors such as the biotechnology and bioscience sector, where women entrepreneurs are actually commercializing, going into new markets, venturing into new products, and also working around impact-related work, which has got the potential, to create more sustainable systems, impact communities more positively. And we see that as a very great progress that has happened in the last few years.
I'm going to do a bit of PR for WEAC and for Nambula, because she didn't do it herself. So since its launch, more than 6,000 women have visited WEACZambia to gain entrepreneurial resources or information. More than 3,500 women have participated in WEAC organized workshops and other programs. And these programs include ongoing Academy for Women Entrepreneurship, a US government-funded program co-implemented by WEACZambia, which is supporting 100 women with business knowledge, tools, and networks they need to start and grow their businesses. You see, I'm a better PR person for your business than you are doing right now.
You do that very well, actually.
So we all know the challenges that women face in life in general and in business in particular. And we have spoken about these challenges forever. I'm not sure that things are changing. I'm not sure that the world is paying the same woman who does what I do the same way as it pays me. I'm not sure that the world is created an office space that is the same for a woman that it is for me, that is convenient for a woman as it is for me. I'm not sure that when a woman is an entrepreneur like I am, and she walks into a space of trade, she gets the same treatment, payment, honor as I do. So from where I sit, I'm slightly despondent, and I'm a man. I'm a privileged person. I was born with privilege. I didn't even create it for myself. What, in your view, should women do for themselves? Because men like me will not change the world to suit you.
Well, very good question, Rans. First of all, I would like to begin by saying that I think for a very, very long time, women have, leveraged their deep insights into understanding, for example, what society needs in order to get to the next level of development and transformation. And I think this is one area where we see a lot of progress in terms of women themselves using alternatives to address some of the barriers that they face in starting, growing their businesses, and also generally women from, whether it's the corporate sector, the professional sectors, and so on. But I think I should also say that in as much as a lot of progress has been made, where we're beginning to see a lot of things look up for women entrepreneurs, to be more specific, there's still a lot of barriers that exist, that prevent them to getting to a level of them creating more impact and venturing into more specific areas of development. And some of these barriers exist in line with systems, for example, some of the social cultural stereotypes that surround women. For example, when you look at the current labor force, which is largely, especially within the informal sector, it's largely constituted by women. So you find that there are specific inequalities that apply more to women than to men. So where we are seeing, for example, unequal access to income, we're also seeing ventures that are led by men to attract more funding and investment, for example, because there are notions and misconceptions that have been built for a very, very long time that female-led ventures perhaps are more risky and also tend to grow at a very slow pace. So these are things that we are beginning to see as major barriers, I think, on the continent and globally as well. And when you also look at how society, for example, looks at support for women-led initiatives, it's always looked at from the micro perspective. And this is something that we want to change, because the notion is always that anything to do with women has to be micro entrepreneurship, microfinance. So we need to get to a stage where we are beginning to address or to adapt a bigger vision in terms of what we anticipate or how we anticipate women to develop. And so it becomes very difficult to have those conversations, for example, when systems are still looking at women-led ventures to be less profitable, to be less attractive. So we need to shift the conversations at different levels, at the corporate level, investment opportunities that are coming to the continent. We see men-driven ventures being more in the forefront. And I think this is sort of a bleak situation. But I think coming back to your question in terms of what is it that women can do, to change this? I think one of the things, first of all, that women can do is do what they have done very well for a very, very long time, and this is looking at development at a perspective that enables them to design and develop for the future and not only for now. And this is what supports or helps women to be more sustainable in their outlook and to also, think through how they can effectively contribute to creating impact at a larger scale. Because we're also seeing, progress in, women in key sectors. For example, some of the challenges that Africa is currently facing, such as, low access to adequate and affordable financing, water, situation, the energy situation, you find that innovation is happening in female-led entrepreneurship ecosystems. So we have startups, for example, that are led by women that are, adapting and venturing into innovative ecosystems that have got a foresight, to create impact at a larger scale, to impact more people, and also to bring quality to how development is happening. So I think it's important to continue to address some of those barriers, but at the same time, recognize that there are certain things that need to happen in order, for us to track, for example, the success, that is happening. But we also need to be very intentional about how we measure, the minimum standards that will ultimately lead, to women being successful and addressing some of these barriers.
For me, one of the barriers, Nambula, has to be the fact that even at negotiation level, you are 11 out of 10 times, not even 9 out of 10 times, 11 out of 10 times guaranteed to be sitting across the desk with a man. So already you're sitting with, let me for now be controversial, with the enemy, who sees you as micro, small, unsafe, blah, 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 blah. And anyway, she's just a woman. I mean, I think that for me is the first barrier. But what is very ironic, by the way, in the investment space, is that a lot of money that fund managers raise is raised from insurance money all over the world. It is people's investments that they put in insurance. Now, here's the funny part. Majority of people who invest in insurance are women, but those investments go to men businesses. We gotta change this somewhere. I'm not sure it's going to change. Do we need a women's bank? And do we need to be changing policies where companies or banks or funders are forced to have women sitting on their boards and in their management so that the voices can be heard? What could be done while you and I are alive? I mean, I'm worried about my daughter having this conversation again 30 years from today and nothing has changed.
Right. I think, Rams, you're very right when you highlight those issues. And I think what we have seen also is in situations where women face barriers, for example, to funding or to investment opportunities, we've seen them resort to alternative means in the shortest period of time to think about solutions that can meet their needs in that particular instance. So women have not sat back because of these setbacks. They have used alternative means to raise capital, for example. You will also notice that a lot of, for example, venture capital, initiatives that are coming to Africa that are led by women are deliberately and also very intentionally directing, these resources to female-owned businesses. And we see networks of female investors that are coming together to have those conversations in terms of how they can push, investment into women. And this is because they have seen the traction that has been made by the women themselves that have gone out to find alternative capital and alternative financing. It may be as small as at the level of, for example, savings groups and village banking. Yes. But what has come out of that is women critically thinking about how they can grow funds that have been established at a very organic level into bigger funds that they will use to lend to other women. And they're now having conversations about women's banks. So this is where we are. And I think that is a positive aspect that's coming out of some of the systemic barriers that women are facing in accessing funding. It's a pity that it will be a pity if 10 years from now, we'll be having our children and our children's children will be fighting the same fight. I've always been saying that in my professional life, the last few years, my focus has been, to push the women's agenda, to address gender parity in different spheres of the economy. And it would be sad if 10 years or 15 years from now, we'll be having the same conversation. I think we should be having a different conversation at another level. So it's also important to note that there have been female leaders and trailblazers on the continent that are driving this change. And those have served to be mentors. They have inspired upcoming young women that are looking into being successful in different areas, of their lives. So I think it's important to recognize the effort that is being done. We also need to map out what is happening on the continent, where innovation is taking place, and where women have alternatively found solutions to address some of these barriers.
Okay, I'm gonna veer away from politics for a second. Let's go back to the summit. So what can people expect from you when they come into that room, even if it's virtual?
Oh, great. Okay. So we're going to be having a very interesting conversation with some of the eminent female founders, agents of change that are doing amazing things on the continent to address, female entrepreneurship and innovation support in Africa. I'm also happy that in the last few years, there have been efforts to try and address, or rather to understand some of the gender-specific issues that relate to supporting innovation ecosystems, especially related to women. And so the summit itself gives an opportunity to refocus and reimagine what, is expected to happen, for example, in the next couple of years, in terms of how women are going to take a leading role and to take center stage in driving innovation ecosystems. And I'm happy that there's a whole day that is focusing on female founders, female entrepreneurs, female professionals and networks that are supporting efforts within the continent, to change some of the stereotypes and the barriers that we're currently experiencing. So I think there should be many expectations. I'm personally excited to be talking to, some of the hub managers, some of the research, leads who have, conducted research and studies that are getting to understand women's participation better, And yeah, I just really look forward to a very exciting time. And I'm hoping that this platform will also bring new insights in terms of how we can create a better enabling ecosystem for women entrepreneurs.
If you were to wave a magic wand, it's been 5 years now, what would you like to see WEAC to have achieved in the next 5?
Right. That's a very good question. First of all, our vision, this year in June, we were celebrating 5 years in existence. And obviously this journey has come with quite a number of opportunities, barriers, and we've also had the opportunity to support some of the amazing ideas that have gone through our system, and seeing them to get to a point where they are gaining traction, recognition, not only at national level, but at the global level, I think has been an amazing experience. What I would like to see more is the growth of not only the startup community within the female entrepreneurship space, but we want to see more growth-focused, businesses that have got a bigger vision, to tap into outside markets, to think about internationalization more critically, but at the same time to have a pipeline of examples in terms of businesses that have been built, led by women, and that are doing amazing things in the economy. I think that would be my dream, to just grow that ecosystem that enables, more women to be more aggressive and take leadership roles within very key sectors on the continent.
Wow. Look, I am privileged to have had the first bite of having a chat with you before everybody else gets to see you at the summit next week. So on my part, I am very chuffed that you gave me the first bite. I'm looking forward to the summit. We will be in the room with you throughout that summit. We are partners with the summit. We'll be broadcasting some of the conversations live on this platform. And I'm sure that your participation tonight will lure even more people to come in. And I hope more women entrepreneurs, or even people who are wishing to get into this space, have listened to you and they would want to come in. Because one of the things that I'm sure we also need are linkages across the continent, so that we all work together to grow this continent and not work in silos as we have been made to do over the decades. The future should be that we all work together to get this continent to the next level. So Nambula, I'm grateful, I'm happy, and I thank you very much for this conversation. I wish you all the best in the summit, and we shall see you next week.
Thank you, Rams. It's been a pleasure being here, and thank you so much for your insights.
Great stuff. We're sharing all the details of WEAC on our space. People are going to know more about what you do, and hopefully there'll be linkages as we go forward. So tomorrow, folks, I got amazing news for you tomorrow. It's an amazing, amazing day, and you're going to love me for this. It is no-show day. We're taking a holiday. We're taking a break. Like all of us, we should all get a break. You know, the labor laws allow all of us to get a break. So I'm away. I'm not doing the show tomorrow evening, which means you have a long, long weekend. We shall see you on Monday with Dr. T, and certainly on Tuesday, we are all in the summit, aren't we? You're all registering for this summit, and we're going to grow as entrepreneurs. So, Frederick, I don't want to see you for another 4 days until Monday. And from me, Rems Mabote, good night and God bless.